The standard American diet for people here in the US is high in seed oils, processed sugars, and artificial ingredients. A lot of chronic diseases like obesity, diabetes, heart disease have skyrocketed due to these foods. It's been gradually getting worse and worse and worse over time as people continue to get a little bit lazier and they become a little bit less educated on health. The more processed food that people consume and that they push processed food on people, I think it creates a lot more brain fog. I think people become unaware of what they're actually putting into their bodies. They just get lazy and they decide not to take initiative and actually figure out how to make their bodies healthy, because a lot of these companies, big pharma, they will tell you that the foods that they're putting out, these processed foods, are actually good for you. And then we start to believe it. We get indoctrinated into believing that, and we consume more and more and more in hopes that that will fix it. And we take more medicines in hopes that that will fix it. But it never does, because they don't care about your health. They could care less. They care about you spending money on their products so they can get richer. Welcome back to the Tickets Towards Success, a podcast where we dive deep into health, fitness, finance, and the mindset needed to thrive in all areas of life. I'm your host, Tucker Nanakoven. If you're a returning guest, I want to thank you for coming back and tuning in today. If you're new here, I want to thank you also for tuning into my podcast today. In this episode, we have a great topic. We're going to talk about the power of nutrition, the power of eating healthy, how it's the key to longevity and the key to sustainable energy. The truth is that nutrition affects every single aspect of our life. It's the way that we fuel our bodies. It is the way that we get energy. It's the way that we perform in our everyday lives. It's the way that we live longer. It's the way that we are healthier for a longer period of time. And it can even provide mental clarity where we can think clearer every single day. Unfortunately, in today's world, most people are eating diets that are full of ultra-processed foods, ultra-processed ingredients, nutrient depleted foods, and it's really wreaking havoc in the United States. And that is the main reason why I'm very passionate about nutrition. I think it's super important. I think that a lot of us could benefit from extra education on nutrition and on healthy eating habits, and not only to reach nutrition goals, but also to just feel better and enjoy life more. And that's why today we're going to break down the power of healthy eating and why it's essential. And I'm going to talk about whole foods and the animal-based diet, how they can fuel your body for peak performance, for energy and longevity. And I'm also going to share what my diet looks like, my road to finding that diet and how I structure it and why it's benefited me over the past 3 years. As a quick reminder, if you do enjoy this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from these insights. As I've said in the past, my goal is to reach as many people as possible in 2025. So I would greatly appreciate it. And thank you in advance. And with that being said, let's jump into part one of this podcast episode. And that is why nutrition is the foundation of health. And I'm going to start off by saying the food you eat is the fuel that you run on. Regardless if you are into fitness, regardless if you're an athlete, if you are not as active as some people are, it is still the food that fuels your body. You have to implement good food into your body so it can run correctly. Have you ever noticed a difference when you put a different type of gas in your car? Compared premium to unleaded gas. If you put premium gas in, you're usually going to get better gas mileage, maybe a couple more miles until you have to fill up again. And it just seems like your car is running a little bit better than it used to on that unleaded gas. I want you to think of our bodies as an engine. The quality of food that we put in directly affects how we run, how our bodies operate. That's why it's important to put good sourced food into our bodies. Because you see, the calories that are in food, they convert into energy, or ATP, which fuels everything from brain function to muscle movement. Now, there's 3 macros as well that we need to pay attention to. And that's going to be carbohydrates, fats, and probably the most important, which is protein. All of these play a role in energy production as well. But what this means is that junk food equals sluggishness, it equals being tired, brain fog, poor recovery, inflammation all throughout our body, which is not good. Now, whole nutrient-dense foods provide us with energy. They help us optimize our performance, and it can give us a better shot at living longer and having a healthier life later on down the road. So every bite that we take, everything that we consume every single day is either feeding a disease or it's fighting against something that may be going on in your body or that may happen to you in the future. In order to live longer, nutrition plays a vital role in that. There's some scientific studies out there that show that diet is the number one factor when influencing how long and how well that you live. It's the quality of your life as well. You want to live long, but also be able to continue to do things that you enjoy, like going outside and going for a walk, or maybe doing some sort of sports activity, or being able to move your body and just not have to worry about something that may be affecting the way you do normal activities. You want to be able to lift things, groceries when you're in your old age. You don't want people having to be there every single time with you because your body is just so deteriorated from maybe the foods that you ate in the past. And there's an interesting study, and some of you may have actually seen this. It was on Netflix a while ago. It was called the Blue Zone Study. It took place in 2004. It looked at the world's longest living populations, and while their diets all varied, they all focused on whole, unprocessed foods. Like I said, this was a documentary on Netflix. I am unsure if it's still on there or not, but it was called Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. Now, what are blue zones? Blue zones are geographical areas, basically, that are unusually lower in chronic diseases, which is something that is extremely, extremely high in America and not a good look for us here in the West. 50% of the population struggle with at least one chronic illness, and 4 out of 10 adults struggle with at least 2. And why is that? In my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, it's because of processed food. We are consuming processed food at a high rate, and it's playing a big impact on our bodies, and it's deteriorating our bodies. It's causing inflammation in our bodies, which can lead to these chronic illnesses. And there were some common themes along these long-living cultures. Number 1 was a high intake of natural, nutrient-dense foods, meat, fish, fruits, freshly grown vegetables. Number 2, there was a low intake of processed sugars, another thing that is bad in the West, a lot of sugar, processed sugar, and a lot of different foods out there. They also had a low intake on seed oils and refined grains. Number 3 was eating in alignment with their ancestral diets. A lot of these places that they conducted these studies at were kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Some of these civilizations that may not even have had contact with people outside of their tribes or their communities ever or in a very long time. So they've been eating the same way for years and years and centuries because that's all that they know. That's all that they've been taught as they've been brought up. And it's usually revolved around hunting and killing your food, fishing for your food, wild caught fish, finding fruits and vegetables naturally or growing them. And that's all that they eat. It may be in low quantities because I don't know exactly how much that they can make or how much that they can kill or fish for, but that's what it means by how they've been following their ancestral diets for long periods of time. Now, why are processed foods, why are they wrecking people's health, especially in the West, in the United States? Well, let's take a look at the standard American diet, the SAD. Look it up on Google if you'd like to know more about it. There's a lot of studies out there, and it talks about how the standard American diet for people here in the US is high in seed oils, sugar, processed sugars, and artificial ingredients. A lot of chronic diseases like obesity, diabetes, heart disease have skyrocketed due to these foods. It's been gradually getting worse and worse and worse over time. As people continue to get a little bit lazier and they become a little bit less educated on health. And I feel like when I say lazy, I don't mean that in like a shots fired type of way. I mean it in the more processed food that people consume, the more that they put out, the more that they make and that they push processed food on people. I think it creates a lot more brain fog. I think people become unaware of what they're actually putting into their bodies, and they just get lazy and they decide not to take initiative and actually figure out how to make their bodies healthy, because a lot of these companies, big pharma, they will tell you that the foods that they're putting out, these processed foods, are actually good for you. And then we start to believe it. We get indoctrinated into believing that. And we consume more and more and more in hopes that that will fix it. And we take more medicines in hopes that that will fix it. But it never does, because they don't care about your health. They could care less. They care about you spending money on their products so they can get richer. They don't care about your health. That's why you have to take initiative. So that's why you have to eliminate that brain fog, take initiative, and figure out how to eat healthy, whole foods, whatever kind of diet you may want to go on, whatever you're interested in, whatever you like, doesn't matter. Make sure it's whole foods. And I think that social media has been spreading a lot of awareness about this specifically in probably the past 4 years. And I don't want to get like, I'm not a big political type of person, to be honest with you. I have my beliefs. That's what I believe in. And I never want to make it like this, but I do want to say that the good news about the past 6 months is that RFK is taking over the Department of Health. RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., he is taking over the Department of Health in the USA and is starting to get things back on track for the people of America. He is passing a bill, or I think they're trying to pass a bill, or maybe they already have. I don't really pay attention. I just saw a glimpse of it, and some people have talked about it that I know, about banning of food coloring in food, which is in everything. Red 40, yellow 5, blue 10. It is in everything. Look at all your kids' cereals. It's all flooded in there. Ice cream, cereals, any kind of sweet treat. It's all in there. Gatorades, sports drinks, energy bars. It can be literally in anything. Like, next time you go to the grocery store, pick up a cereal or pick up an energy drink or a Gatorade and look at the back and read the ingredients, and you will see one of those food coloring options or one of those food coloring examples as an ingredient listed in the ingredients. And that's not good. You're consuming chemicals, and I just hate the fact that I did that for a long time and I wasn't more aware of it. But I'm super happy and blessed to have gotten out of that mindset and actually learned about nutrition and have been able to take care of my body the best that I can in the past 3 years. And my biggest hope is that more education will become available on the topic of health. I hate seeing people out there that are struggling with their health because they don't have resources to get educated, and they may not have the resources to educate themselves. And it really upsets me that the United States, the West, doesn't care about the people that are here, and they keep pushing this crap to everyone, and people just keep listening to them and consuming it. And while I do think there's a line there where people ultimately make their own choices and they can take initiative, I do think that there's some examples out there where people really can't help it. And a lot of healthy food is very expensive. And while you can make it work on a tighter budget, it is still difficult, especially if you want to get some high quality good food. And that's really upsetting because it shouldn't be that way. It should be opposite. But unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, and we just have to figure out how to manage with it. Now, what do ultra processed foods do to us? They trick our brain. They can trick us into overeating. It hijacks our dopamine. We've talked about dopamine in past episodes before, and how it's that adrenaline rush that you get when, something exciting happens. But think about when you eat something good. I'll tell you, my favorite food of all time is ice cream. I love ice cream. Dairy Queen, Culver's, straight out the tub. I'll eat a whole pint. I don't care. It is so good. I get a big hit of dopamine when I take that first bite of ice cream because I just love it. And I tend to eat a lot of ice cream if I'm going out and getting ice cream, or if I'm somewhere where I'm allowing myself to have ice cream, I will eat a lot of it. And sometimes it's hard to control it because I'm getting all that dopamine. And that's what happens with a lot of people that are buying a lot of processed foods and consuming them. They are getting a bunch of dopamine hits every single time that they eat, and then it keeps them wanting more, so they keep buying that ultra processed food, which we don't want to do. But I will also say that this is also true for healthy foods. You do get a good dopamine hit from eating healthy foods because you can make it taste really good, and it's not like it tastes bad. You can make it taste really good and your body feels so much better. And then once you start feeling better, you're going to get a dopamine hit because you're going to be excited that you're feeling better. You're going to want to eat that food again. And I know in my diet, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I get to eat a lot of really good, nutritious fruit. And that's natural sugar that I get into my diet. And that is where I get my dopamine hits because I really enjoy eating that good, nutritious fruit. But I also believe that ultra processed foods cause a lot of brain fog, like I've said, and eventually they take away the ability for us as people to understand what is going on and how it is actually fueling our bodies incorrectly. I feel like when we consume a lot of ultra processed food, we get into almost like a food coma, but we are still going throughout life. We're kind of just lingering throughout life. And I don't really know, but I think that's got to be a side effect of the food that we're consuming, the chemicals that we're putting into our bodies. And that's not good. That's not how we should be living. We should be living with clear minds and being able to make smart decisions and smart choices and make choices that will benefit our life, and not having all this brain fog and not being confused all the time. So if you are out there, if you're listening to this and you are feeling tired all the time, if you're feeling sluggish after your meals, or if you experience brain fog, and if you don't know what brain fog is, it's just that moment where you really can't remember anything. It just feels like your brain is so cluttered with multiple thoughts. It feels like you just can't think clearly. That's what brain fog is. So if you're experiencing that, you might not have an energy problem, but you might just have a nutrition problem. You might not be fueling your body with healthy, nutritious foods. So let's talk about and switch gears from processed foods to whole foods and the power that they hold in helping our bodies become the best version that they can be. So what are whole foods? Whole foods are minimally processed, nutrient dense, and as close to their natural state as possible. The more limited ingredients that they have, the better. All right, so some examples of some whole foods would be grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, raw dairy, and raw honey. I will say that if you can't get raw dairy, like I can't here in Iowa, you can get low pasteurized temp milk or dairy, and that'll be just fine. I would stick with organic fruits and vegetables if you can. Grass-fed meats, like I said, wild-caught fish, and pasture-raised eggs if you can. It all depends on your personal life, your personal budget, and what you're willing to spend on groceries for whole foods. Why do whole foods matter? For one, they're very high in essential vitamins and minerals that our bodies need to absorb so we can feel our best and so we can thrive in everyday activities. It's needed for energy production and especially recovery. So if you're an athlete and you're not eating whole foods and nutritious, nutrient-dense foods, you really need to switch over to that so your body can recover better and it can recover faster. They also support gut health, hormone balance, and immune function, making sure those are all staying in tip-top shape. And they're also anti-inflammatory. A lot of people struggle with a lot of inflammation throughout their bodies, especially if they're consuming a high dose of ultra-processed foods. So switching over to whole foods can really lower that inflammation in the bodies, and it'll lead to better performance and longevity in your life. Now let's talk about some whole foods versus processed foods. So a good example, and I'm sure that most people know the difference between a whole food and a processed food, but one would be an avocado, which is a very good whole food, a very good fat whole food, versus low-fat chips. I can tell you, if you're buying low-fat chips from the store, I encourage you to read the ingredient list because it's probably full of seed oils. It could have some food coloring in it, depending on what kind of chips they are. And it probably has a list of 20 ingredients. Now, an avocado is just an avocado, unless if you're buying it in some kind of processed packaging, then check the ingredients to make sure there's nothing in there that is a little weird. For example, my girlfriend buys these little avocado cups from Costco, and they have like salt and pepper and just avocado in it. That's fine. But if you're doing that, make sure you check the ingredients before you buy it. I personally just buy the regular avocados and cut them up and eat them that way. But why are these different? The avocado is packed with nutrients, healthy fats, and fiber. And the chips, like I said, ultra processed, high in seed oils, and may contain other ingredients that you don't even know what it is. Our bodies thrive on real food. So choose the avocado over the chips. You can do it. Trust me, I am a chip guy. I love chips so much. I would get a bag. I used to buy 4 bags of chips every single time that I went to the grocery store. And most of the time I would eat that in 1 week. So it takes a lot for me to not buy them anymore. Now, what is the problem with health foods in grocery stores? This is just blows my mind because the marketing that is done with some of these companies is brilliant, but also just villain-like. Because I don't know when it started, but probably like 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, people started to want to get healthier and they wanted to start eating better and they started to figure this out. And these companies started to market natural flavors, multi-grain bread, or enriched wheat flour, energy bars, protein bars, sports drinks with electrolytes, Gatorade. Get your electrolytes in. Are you kidding me? Natural flavors. They're marketing that to people to make it seem like it's natural from the earth. I mean, come on. Multi-grain bread, it just sounds like it's good for you. Enriched wheat flour. Come on, when I used to read that, I was like, enriched? This shit must be good. This must be good for me. Enrich my body, make me feel good. When in reality, that is probably the thing that affects my body the most, which would be like gluten. And it really upsets my stomach really bad. Like, I really can't have gluten at all. Protein bars, you can find some healthy options for protein bars, but I wouldn't recommend any of them. To be honest, you can just source your protein very easily from Whole Foods. But go look at the label and the ingredient list on protein bars. Just go to your normal grocery store, go to the protein bar section, pick up any one of them and read the ingredients and see what's in it. It's terrible for you. There's going to be a seed oil in there, and there could be some food coloring, and there's just going to be bad ingredients. So don't eat those, or the energy bars. Gatorade is the one that pisses me off the most because so many people just think Gatorade's so good for you. It's terrible for you. And all their ones that have electrolytes barely have any freaking electrolytes. Magnesium, potassium, sodium. They're super, super low in electrolytes. And you know what they're really high in? Sugar, processed sugar. That's how they switch it. It's so bad for you. So bad. Seed oils. There's also high fructose corn syrup, which is in literally every single thing that's processed nowadays. And it's probably, besides enriched wheat flour, maybe, it's probably the worst thing on the planet for you. Go look up a video about how high fructose corn syrup is made, and you're going to want to puke. It's disgusting. Now, there's also plant-based alternatives out there. I'm sorry, this shit just makes me laugh because it just really upsets me what they do to people and how they confuse the modern public. Plant-based alternatives are terrible for you too. And I'm not just saying that because I eat animal-based and I don't believe in a lot of vegetables. I think a lot of vegetables are bad for you unless if they're sourced really well from a natural garden. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But there's a lot of plant-based alternatives that contain a lot of seed oils, a lot of soy, which causes a lot of inflammation in your body, and a lot of artificial ingredients. For example, the people that think that the Beyond Burgers, the plant-based burgers are good for you, some of those have 50 freaking ingredients in them. How is that good for you? I know that I'm super biased on this, but don't eat that. It is terrible for you. That is not what our bodies are supposed to eat, in my opinion. And if you look around compared to the people that eat a lot of whole foods, animal-based eating, compared to the people that eat these plant-based alternatives, you can decide that for yourself. So stay away from those plant-based burgers if you're trying to eat more on the whole food side. And the main takeaway from why whole foods are just like super important and what they are is, you know, real health and real food, they don't come in a package. It comes from nature. It comes naturally from the earth. While most things have to be packaged now, we can't just have our own cows. We can't just have our own chickens. Not everybody can do that. And everything that I get is packaged. All my meat is packaged. But, you know, I like to put it into that sense because when you start thinking about it that way, you start realizing what you're getting from the frozen food section probably isn't coming from nature. It's not natural from the earth. So maybe I shouldn't put it in my body because maybe my body doesn't enjoy that. All right, perfect. Let's jump into part 3. This is going to be, the next 2 parts are going to be my favorite. because we're going to talk about animal-based eating. We're going to talk about why it works, and we're going to talk about my story a little bit. And I really hope that y'all will listen to the end of this when I talk about my story, because it is kind of crazy. And I'm just super blessed that God was able to help me figure out on my own how to help my body feel better. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but let's talk about animal-based eating first and why it works. So why am I a big advocate of animal-based eating, and why are a lot of people talking about it out there? And what is it? Animal-based products, well, they're a nutrient powerhouse. That's what it comes down to. They provide essential proteins, essential fats, and essential micronutrients. Meat, eggs, dairy, organ meats have the most bioavailable sources of vitamins and minerals. Now, there are a few myths that I want to address when talking about animal-based eating. And the first myth is that meat is unhealthy, that it's bad for you. It's not. The truth is that high-quality grass-fed meats and wild-caught fish are incredibly nutrient-dense. And to be honest with you, if you're eating a bunch of processed meals, I'm going to go off the limb here and just say that any kind of meat, doesn't have to be grass-fed, doesn't have to be wild-caught fish, is still going to be better for you than those highly processed meals. But if you can get those higher grade meats and higher grade fish, it's going to benefit you even more. Another myth is that red meat causes heart disease. Yeah, that's a bunch of BS. There's a lot of studies out there that say it does. There's a lot of studies out there that proves why it doesn't. The truth is that the studies that are blaming red meat, they fail to separate the processed meats from the whole quality source meats. They give their patients in the case studies terrible source meats. They also give them meals that contain meat, that contain fries that are cooked in seed oils, and they contain a big drink of Coca-Cola. And they blame that on the red meat. Like, are you freaking kidding me? That doesn't make any sense. So red meat does not cause heart disease. I will stand by that for as long as I am on this earth. I think red meat is one of the best things that you can eat. I think it's one of the best things for your body. Protein, micronutrients. It contains a lot of really good vitamins that help our body. It helps us absorb vitamins as well. So make sure that you're getting your red meat in if you can. If you're interested in eating on the animal-based diet, these are a few foods that you need to prioritize when eating on it. Grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised eggs, raw dairy or low-temp dairy, and organ meats if you can stomach it. I will say that I cannot stomach organ meats. I've tried it. It's just not my thing. And you know what? I'm okay with that. But I do hope to get to a place financially that I can substitute dry, frozen, capsuled ones from Heart and Soil. If some of you may know who that is, I don't know if you will or not, but there's this company out there. It's founded by Paul Saladino. It's called Heart and Soil, and they make capsules. It's dry, froze organ meats in forms of capsules. It's just a little bit expensive, a little bit out of my price range right now, but I do hope to get to a point financially where I can purchase those and I can take those to help benefit my health even further. And I also want to talk about pasture-raised eggs. You can get any kind of eggs. That's fine, depending on your budget. But if you crack a free-range egg next to a pasture-raised egg in a bowl, and you look at the color of the yolk, that pasture-raised egg is going to be a lot more golden compared to the free-range one, which will be more of a yellow tint. You want the golden one. You want it to be as dark of a yolk as possible. And that's just the difference. And it's really noticeable. I mean, you can tell a major difference. And that's why I will never buy free-range eggs. I'll always buy pasture-raised. I try and get the best quality ones from Vital Farms, which is just I don't know if they sell all over or not, but it's here in Iowa. And their eggs are fantastic and they taste really, really good. The yolks are really, really creamy and smooth. So that's what I'm always going to get. But I will say that if you can't afford to get high-end pasture-raised eggs. You can get any kind of egg, and you will be better off than whatever else you're eating for breakfast, like oatmeal or sugary cereal. So just get eggs. There's some nutrient-dense plant foods like seasonal fruits, honey, and properly prepared vegetables. I'm not a big hater of vegetables. I think they can be really good for you. I just don't eat a lot of them because I don't like where I can get them from. I don't think that they're sourced. Hopefully in the future, when I have a family and a house, I would love to have a garden where we can grow our own vegetables, and I will eat them then because I know that they're not being sprayed with a ton of pesticides and chemicals, and they will be sourced a lot better. So here's some foods that you can put on your grocery list right now. That's going to be berries, any kind of berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, anything that ends in berry. Extremely, extremely good for you. A lot of great nutrients in there. Bananas, kiwis are great for you. I think it's the most underrated fruit out there. Apples, avocados, watermelon. My favorite fruit of all time is watermelon. If we get a watermelon on Sunday, it's gone by Tuesday, and I'm talking about the big ass watermelons. That's my favorite fruit. You can get sweet potatoes, carrots, cucumbers. I've been eating a lot of cucumbers lately. Just mainly it's just water, and it's really good for you. It's a great vegetable that you can eat. Now, I will say, if you can, get most of these in organic fashion. If you can't, you can get some baking soda, and you can get some white vinegar, and you can clean these fruits, mostly the berries, actually just the berries. Sorry about that. Just the berries. If you get those, you can throw them in that mixture, clean them up, and it'll get all the pesticides and bugs and everything else off of there. Don't need to clean bananas. They got the skin on it. Same with the kiwis. Even though, well, okay, I take that back. If you peel your kiwis, you're good. I don't peel my kiwis because the skin is really good for you. It's good and high in fiber. I wash it off over the sink though, and then I eat that skin. Apples, you can try and clean that up in the vinegar and stuff. Just make sure you wash it off really well. Everything else is going to be fine for you. You can wash your carrots and your cucumbers, obviously, and probably your sweet potatoes. But try and get organic if you can. All right, let's jump into how I personally eat and how I structure my nutrition. So I'm going to talk about just a few things about how I structure it. Then I'm going to get into my journey to animal-based eating, and we'll go over that a little bit. So my daily nutrition framework, this is what I prioritize. I'm going to always prioritize protein because I'm an athlete, do a lot of running, do a lot of lifting. Need to make sure that I'm getting adequate amounts of protein in my system to help me recover and to help me perform and train better. So I eat a lot of grass-fed ground beef. I eat a lot of grass-fed steaks, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloins, pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught salmon, and wild-caught cod. I have 8 ounces of salmon on Tuesday nights. I have 8 ounces of cod on Wednesday nights. Dairy, I wish it was raw dairy. Can't find raw dairy. Can't get it here unless if it's from a farm, which I don't really trust. So I get the low-temp pasteurized dairy that's local here at one of our like natural grocers, very organic shopping grocery stores. I always have healthy fats. I use a lot of grass-fed butter, cook my steak my steaks, yes, but my pasture-raised eggs in there. Eat a lot of avocados, rip at least 1 avocado a day. I use olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, all of those. Nutrient-dense carbs. I eat a ton of honey. I put honey on everything. I put honey on my meat. I put honey on my eggs. I put honey on my fruits. I will put it on my steak. I don't care. I will put it on anything. I will try it on anything. You know what else is really good? I don't eat bacon anymore, but I used to when I first started out on the animal-based diet. If you put honey on bacon with an egg, it is one of the greatest combinations of all time. If you are eating eggs and bacon and you're on the animal-based diet, throw some honey on there. I promise that you won't regret it. And I also do a lot of fruit, a ton of fruit. I rip at least 3 bananas a day. I mean, probably like 1 to 2 apples, kiwis, 3 or 4 a day, maybe. Well, it's probably like 2 to 3. Tons of berries, for every single meal. I also will have sweet potatoes every now and then if I'm thinking about having maybe some sweet potato fries or some potatoes with a steak. Haven't had some in about 3 weeks though, but that does sound pretty good right now. So I might have to pick some of those up next weekend at the grocery store. There's a few key rules that I do follow, and we're going to talk about this at the end because I know it's structured into this episode, but I want to mention it and reiterate it here again. I'm not someone that is like, you're a terrible person because you don't eat healthy 100% of the time. I understand a little bit of balance, but there comes a fine line. So I would say 95% of the time I am avoiding seed oils and processed sugars as much as possible. If I'm at home, I'm not eating any of that stuff. It really plays a factor when I'm traveling or if I'm back home or if it's the holidays. I will say I eat whole unprocessed foods 95% of the time, and I will fast every once in a while as well. I used to do intermittent fasting. I wouldn't eat until 12 p.m. every single day, but I decided not to do that anymore because I want to make sure that I was hitting my protein intake. And with my schedule, I can't eat 3 meals during the day because I have to go into the office every single day. So I can't just cram 3 meals. Like, I don't want to bring multiple meals to work, and I can't cram 2 more after work because I go to the gym. I have other stuff I do. I can barely even cram 1 meal in, to be honest with you. So I decided to not do that anymore. But I think it's really great for you. If you're in a position where you can do it, I would intermittent fast to like 12, have 3 meals during the day, and do it that way. You get a lot of productivity out of it. You can do a lot of get a lot of things done in the morning time. You don't have to worry about making food. But what I do now is I will fast ever so often throughout the year. I just finished a 72-hour, 3-day fast a few weeks ago, right before I went into my marathon prep. Wanted to reset my body, wanted to do it for spiritual reasons as well. It's a really great way if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in God. It is a really great way to connect with your faith and with Him spiritually, and really fight temptation of wanting to eat and breaking that fast. Fasting has been talked about in the Bible forever. It's mentioned so many times in there. I think it's a great thing for us to do to build a healthy relationship with food and to not be addicted to food as well and see it more as an energy source instead of an emotional attachment. So I would always recommend fasting. I'm also going to be making a podcast episode on fasting here in the next couple months. I have it scripted and written out already. So stay tuned and look for that to be coming out in the next few months. So let's talk about my journey to animal-based eating. It is a good one, and my dates may be a little bit off here. I can't even remember exactly when things started to take a turn for me. It's just been so long, and I feel like it's been like 10 years, but it really hasn't. So I believe back in November of 2022, it was at the end of 22 for sure, I started to have some health issues. Now, a little bit of backstory, I would eat, processed foods. I grew up in a healthy home. My mom had breast cancer when I was a kid. And before that, we didn't eat very healthy in the house. But after that, she really took initiative and made sure that we were eating healthy. I just think it was a different kind of healthy compared to what I do now. It was more based off the fact of what people were saying and doctors were telling her to feed the family that was healthy. A lot of grains. We still had, but protein was always there. Eggs were always there. Meat was always there. We grilled a lot. But when it comes to that, it also, when we grill burgers, we're having these ultra processed and rich wheat floured buns. And we're putting ketchup on there that's full of seed oils. We're having fries that are out of the bag that are processed. We're not making our own fries. And I get I will never be upset about that, because there comes a point where it's how much time do I have to make all this, because I have a job and I was in sports a lot, so we traveled a lot. So my parents did the best that they could with adopting very healthy habits and instilling that into my life. I was never allowed to have pop. We never had pop at the house. We never had sports drinks really at the house. The only thing that we would do was maybe Mio, which is still really bad for you, but that's what we, at the time, I thought was better alternative, in which it probably is. A lot of water. But yeah, like when I would go out with my friends or go over to a friend's house, like they would have pop there. Sometimes I would have it, but most of the time I just wouldn't. I don't even really like it to this day. I think it makes me feel terrible, and I just think it's really bad for you. It tastes like syrup to me. But yeah, that was kind of like how my life was before this. So when I went off on my own, got into college, I went to JUCO and Iowa Western in Council Bluffs, which is right by Omaha, Nebraska. And, we ate dining hall food those first 2 years because we were in the dorms, played baseball over there. So we had meal tickets, and that's what we ate. We ate dining hall 3 times a day. And then whatever we had at the dorms was snacks. Goldfish was a big one for me. Veggie straws. Also had like ramen. Had cans of soup, which are terrible for you. All that stuff is so bad for you. And that's how I ate for the first 2 years of college. And, I was working out a lot because I was in sports and I didn't really have these health issues at the time. So I was fine. I didn't really even think about it, didn't really care at that time about my health and about what I was putting into my body. And then I moved to the University of Iowa City, went to the University of Iowa just to finish out my schooling, lived on my own for real for the first time, no dining hall, was in an apartment with 3 of my friends, and we had to make all of our own food. So I went back to what I knew from when my mom and my dad would make food at home. A lot of grilling, a lot of burgers, a lot of pasta, a lot of like deli sandwiches. I would still eat soup, would have oatmeal, bagels, toast, eggs. Yeah, I mean, I still didn't really drink anything necessarily bad. I would get fruit juices every now and then, milk every now and then, chocolate milk, and just a lot of water still. And I had started to really have some bad symptoms come late 2022. Keep in mind too, I was also a college student, so there was a lot of alcohol drinking. It was just a typical college student life. Looking back on it, wish I wouldn't have been the way that I was sometimes, but that is what happened. So, like I said, started having these issues in 2022. I saw numerous doctors, went on numerous doctor visits. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And to give some clarity, I was having some terrible acid reflux. I always felt like there was something stuck and lodged in the back of my throat. And it just felt like it would never go down. Like it felt like I had a piece of food stuck back there. I was having some really bad side pain, like right at the bottom of my abdomen on the left side. And it would hurt really, really bad. Like couldn't bend over. I couldn't sleep. And it really, really just scared me. I really thought that it was maybe like an appendicitis or an appendix attack. And I didn't know what was going on. So I went to the doctor, did multiple tests. I mean, they x-rayed, they MRI'd. I had scans done on my heart. I had so many different procedures done. I took so many different medications. I was on 7 medications at one point. I was on 2 inhalers, nasal spray, and I was on 4 different types of pills. And that continued even after my diagnosis. And I ended up getting diagnosed with EOE, which is esophageal esophagitis, which is just inflammation in the gut. And then it leads up into your esophagus and it continues to have that inflammation as well. So basically, your inflammation occurs in your gut and it causes like an imbalance in the acid in there. And then that's what spits it back up into your esophagus, which irritates it, and it almost like burns it in a way. And it creates that acid reflux. It creates that inflammation in the back of your throat, which makes you feel like you have something stuck back there. And that's what I experienced for a long time. And after I got diagnosed, they did a scope on me. So they put a scope into my stomach. They didn't see any like tumors or anything like that, which obviously very blessed that I didn't have that. That could have been a lot worse. But they did take like a biopsy from my stomach from the inflammation. They tested it, and that is what they found. And it's basically like an allergy to certain food groups, or it can be an allergy environmental. But they did say that most of the time it's from foods, and it's a very wide variety of foods. It can be eggs, it can be any kind of nuts, it can be from shellfish, basically anything. So the only way that they told me that I could really figure it out was going on an elimination diet. And at that time, I was taking 7 different medications. Like I said, I had taken that for months, and I wasn't seeing any progress. And it made me feel, honestly, even worse. I felt more tired. I felt hungry all the time from the inhalers and the pills that were affecting my stomach. And I just felt like I wasn't the same person. I didn't know what to do, to be honest. And it was definitely like hard because at one point in my life, I had always like felt a need to trust doctors, and, because, hey, you went to school for this, like you must know what you're talking about, and I'm going to trust you on that. But after this experience, after going to many doctors and them prescribing all this crap, I kind of lost all faith in anything that a doctor will tell me about my health. And that's when I really decided, fuck this. Like, I'm done. I threw away all my medications, and I prayed to God. I said, please, God, can you just help me figure this out like naturally? I know that there is a way to do this naturally, because God has given us all the resources to heal our bodies and to provide our bodies with the correct nutrients to perform and to live a healthy and long life. So I said, I'm taking matters into my own hands, and I prayed to God. So I started doing a lot of research after that about diets. And this was in March of 2023, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So March of 2023, I started researching a bunch of diets. And the first diet that I found that I came across was the carnivore diet. So I was like, okay, this seems interesting because it's basically an elimination diet. I'm eliminating everything except for beef, water, and salt. So I tried that first. I was like, I love steak. I like ground beef. I can do this easy. It was the hardest thing I ever did. Like, the first 2 weeks are almost impossible because your body is adapting to only eating meat, and it's not probably the best thing for you for the long term. While I do think it is fine for you to do that and like kind of reset your body maybe for like a month, and it would be good for doing it for an elimination diet. It's just a lot of meat to eat, and you have no seasoning but salt on your meat. So, which I'm fine with now, to be honest. I could probably do it even though I don't, but I could probably do it just based off what I eat now. But my body was just so not used to doing that, and it was super, super hard. So I went back to the drawing board, and then I found this guy named Paul Saladino, and his outlook on diets and the animal-based diet. And that's how I came across it. Now, for those of you that may not know who Paul Saladino is, he was a vegetarian turned carnivore, and then he founded the animal-based diet. And that is why I love listening to him talk about nutrition and talk about diets, because This guy has done every single diet, basically. He did the plant-based vegetarian route for a long time. And he did a lot of blood work throughout that time. And he honestly had thought that that was the best thing for you. And he had low energy. His blood work came back. It was terrible. And then he switched back to meat, carnivore. And he really just doesn't think that that's sustainable for a long periods of time, and that you're not feeding your body with the right nutrients, which I agree with. And then he founded the animal-based diet, which is a lot of meat like the carnivore diet, but you also get your fruits, some vegetables, you get natural sugar that your body needs, and you get to enjoy it more. It's more sustainable than the carnivore diet. So when I found this, I was excited because I love fruit and I love meat. I was like, let's go. I'm going to do this. This sounds incredible. And I was very strict with it for about a year. And it was the best that I ever felt in my entire life. I will, to this day, probably forever, recommend the animal-based diet to anyone that ever asks me about nutrition. I will never force it on anyone. I'll never, if someone comes to me and says, I would love your intake or your input on some nutrition advice, but I don't want to eat animal-based, I would encourage them to do some research about animal-based and try it out. But if they really don't, I would give them my honest opinion of what I think they should do based on what they want to do. But it was the best that I ever felt for that year. And it really helped with a lot of the symptoms that I had been experiencing. I didn't have the side pain. I mean, I haven't had that side pain. I've had it once in the past 3 years, 3.5 years. And that was because, if I remember correctly, I just had like a bad binge of eating bad food. Like maybe I was on a holiday or on vacation and, we had a lot of gluten. I personally think that a lot of my symptoms strive from gluten. But I had it like once. But in the past 3.5 years, I've had it one time, and I was having it every other day before I started taking my nutrition and my diet serious. So I was feeling great, and my acid reflux was at very minimal. There were times where maybe I'd have it, maybe I ate too fast, maybe I ate too much in one sitting. That's just something that you have to be aware of when you have the esophaphilic esophagitis condition as well. That's why you have to kind of structure out your meals throughout the day too. It's just better to take some stress and off of your esophagus. So then about a year later, so March 2023 to March of 2024, I actually switched over to a whole foods diet to eat more carbs for running and hybrid training. So obviously we talk about Nick Bare. I promise in one of the episodes I'm going to quit saying his name, but we talk about him a lot. And I kind of started to follow his diet and what he did for hybrid training because I wanted to make sure that I was fueling my body with enough carbs and having enough energy to work out sometimes twice a day, to sustain energy during my longer runs, to sustain energy during my more intense lifting sessions. So I switched over to that whole food approach. So I ended up including like some oatmeal back into my diet, some more toast and sourdough, which I still do eat to this day because I don't have problems with it. And I get really high quality toast or bread and sometimes sourdough as well. Most of the time it's in between. I get one or the other depending on if they have the sourdough at my natural grocery store. But anyways, so I was doing that and I was eating close to probably 400 grams of carbs per day. And I felt really sluggish and just really tired throughout the day. And I didn't enjoy it. I always, would feel like I didn't have energy, which was the whole point in me switching over to eating more carbs. And I used to do fasted running, which I actually was fine with. But I think it's still important to fuel for performance. I think it's important to fuel for your runs because now that I do it now, I do see the benefits of that. But I ended up switching back a little bit later. And I always prioritize whole food sources still to this day. And I always still prioritize food sources back in 2024, March of 2024, when I switched over to that whole food approach. And then we got into 2024, and I actually only have one bullet point on this. And all it says is that I fell into a trap and I fell into almost a dark place. A lot of stuff happened in my life in 2024 that wasn't ideal. I'm not going to sit here and complain about some of the things that happened because, for one, it's out of my control, and two, well, some of it's out of my control. My nutrition and diet was not, but that was one of the first things that I lacked on after some other things took place in my life. But there's a lot of people that have it a lot worse than me, so I'm not going to sit here and complain about it and cry about it. But it was true. It was a dark year. A lot of great things happened, but a lot of bad things happened as well. You know, I did finish my first half marathon. I got really well into running, built up a lot of good endurance, and then I ended up losing it a lot at the end of 2024. And my diet was all over the place. While I was still eating mainly animal-based, I would say that I was also binging a lot of different things. I would tell myself that, like, it's okay to have this. And then the next day I'd say it's okay to have this. And then the next day I'd say it's also okay to have this. And I wasn't being aware of how much I was actually consuming that was unhealthy for me, of processed foods, of seed oil filled foods, of processed sugars, anything like that. And now here in 2025, I decided to go back to what worked. I decided to change my life again. I can say that, we're going back to where it all began, where I felt my best, and starting the podcast, posting more content. I realized how important this side of my life is in terms of nutrition and fitness. And that's why I made the podcast. That's why I make content on Instagram and on TikTok, because I want to spread the awareness of, my journey throughout my nutrition, throughout my fitness, what I've done, what's worked for me. And I want to just be kind of like a light into some people's lives. And I want to be able to maybe help people realize and help educate people on what I know and what I believe. I'm not saying that you have to follow exactly what I do or eat animal-based. The only reason that I really do eat animal-based is because I've tried everything else. And I have this condition, and it's what makes me feel good. And it's what I enjoy. I enjoy the foods. I never get tired of it. And guess what? I can make tons of different foods on animal-based. I made animal-based protein pancakes this morning that are super good. And they're super good for you too. And I love that flexibility with the animal-based diet because you're able to do those things. I also make animal-based ice cream, which is fantastic. It is so freaking good. The only sweetener in it is I either use maple syrup or I use raw honey. And that's it. It's like 5-ingredient ice cream. And I just make it in my ice cream maker. Like, I love that. And that's where I'm at now in 2025. And I don't think that it'll ever go away. I think the only time that it'll get hard is when I have a family. And I will say that you're always going to adapt. You're always going to change, but always do what makes you feel the best. If whole foods make you feel the best, do that. If animal-based eating makes you feel the best, do that. If carnivore eating makes you feel the best, then do that. If whole food plant-based eating makes you feel the best, then do that. I don't have a problem with that. While I think animal-based eating and whole foods is the best way to go. I understand that everybody's bodies are different and they require different needs, and people feel different based off different things that they eat. And that's okay. I'm just happy that you are taking initiative and you are striving to be healthier and eat more nutritious food and fuel your body properly. So I got a few final thoughts from today's episode. I think this has been a great episode. This is something that I love to talk about. Could talk about it forever, to be honest. And I'm excited to have other people join the podcast here in the future to talk about nutrition, to talk about their views on nutrition. I have a few people lined up for the second half of this year that we will dive into nutrition a little bit. And I have a few people that are lined up that have not opposite views, but different views than me. And I think that'll be a great conversation. It'll be great to learn from them, and hopefully they can learn something from me. But for a final thought for today's episode, I got 3 of them here. I want everyone to know that I hope that you don't get the wrong outlook on this. Eating whole foods, eating animal-based specifically, it's not limiting what you can eat. It's just what your body really requires to thrive, to be optimal, to live an optimal life, to perform better at everyday tasks, or to perform better in whatever kind of fitness goals you may have. We have to be eating healthy foods. Number 2 is to do not have an emotional relationship with food. Learn to see food as energy and a recovery source. I know I touched on this a little bit ago, but it's just super important to not have that emotional attachment to food. Because that's when we start to not really realize what we're putting in our body. We have to be aware of what we are fueling our body with. Number 3, I want everyone to still enjoy food that they love. And I'm never going to be a big advocate for saying everything in moderation. I really do not like that saying, because I think that when people say it, they develop this mindset where they're always saying it. And, you have one piece of chocolate on Sunday and you'll be like, everything in moderation. And then you have a brownie on Monday, everything in moderation. And then you have a Culver's meal on Tuesday, everything in moderation. And then I feel like it starts to compound and starts to stack up a little bit. So I don't like the term in moderation, but I think it's important to still enjoy your favorite foods. And I'm going to tell you how I do this. Now, we talked about ice cream. I make my own animal-based ice cream, but I still love going to Dairy Queen, and I still love going to Culver's, and I still love getting unhealthy ice cream, to be honest with you. I still love going to my girlfriend's mom's house. She always has ice cream for me because she knows that's my favorite thing to eat. And just bless her heart for always having that, because I look forward to when I go over there. And we don't go over, that much, but when I do, I'll have a bowl of ice cream with the family, because that's important. It's important to enjoy those moments with family. So family functions, I think it's okay. If you're having a full meal, like if you're having appetizers, a full meal, and then a dessert, have a few bites of the appetizers. And for your full meal, if you can, have something that revolves around whole foods or animal based. If I'm going out to eat, I'm going to order a steak. It may be cooked in seed oils. That's okay, because I'm out with my family. We're having a good time. I'm going to have a steak, which is good for me. So what? It's cooked in seed oils. I never use them. Okay. So we're going to eat it, and that's fine. And then maybe I want to have some ice cream for dessert. That's okay. But then the next day, I'm going to get up and I'm going to eat animal-based whole foods. I'm going to have a great day of eating, and I'm going to be just fine. So make sure that you still enjoy your favorite foods. But I will say that being consistent, you have to be consistent with it over time still. Okay, it takes a lot of hard work to actually be able to do that, because sometimes you'll wake up and be like, oh man, I kind of want like some unhealthy breakfast, like some pancakes, some chocolate chip pancakes or something. Can't do that. Okay. Enjoy that moment of being able to spend time with your family or a significant other. If you go out to eat, me and my girlfriend, both big foodies. We love to go out to eat for special occasions, try new restaurants. I'm going to get whatever I want there. Some appetizers. 95% of the time, I'm getting a steak. And then I'm going to have a dessert, whether that's cheesecake or ice cream. Doesn't matter. You can do this with pizza. You can do this with pasta. Me and my girlfriend have a really good pizza place that we like to go to here in Iowa City. And the cool thing about this pizza place is it's actually every single cheese, dairy, meat is all sourced from their farm, which is really cool. And it's wood fire pizza. Guess what? They might have some kind of bad ingredients on there, maybe some seed oils. I don't care. That's still a good option compared to going to McDonald's and getting a freaking McChicken and 2 McDoubles and a large fry. So that's okay. All right. Same with pasta. And another big one. Well, hang on. Before I talk about this, I'm also going to just throw this in there too. So another thing I do with my eating is I'm very consistent throughout the week. And then on Sunday nights, I eat dinner with my girlfriend. She actually makes us dinner. And that's like our time to connect and be together and eat dinner together, because we never get to, just because I am very strict about what I'm eating throughout the week. So I always not allow, but I give her that time to make me something because she enjoys doing that. That's kind of a love language of ours. And so we sit down and we eat dinner together and talk about what she made. And that's always a really good time during the week. And not everything that she makes on those Sunday nights is, in my definition, as healthy. I will say that 99% of the time it's going to be whole foods, because that's basically how she eats. She eats a lot more vegetables than me, obviously less meat, but she eats a lot of fruits as well, just more whole food, based. So that's what I like to do for that. Okay, back to the last one, and that's going to be alcohol. This is a big one because alcohol is a poison. It kills our bodies. It's very, very bad for us. As you can see behind me, I am an avid bourbon and whiskey collector. I have my decanters right there. If you open that bar behind me, there's about 20 to 25 bottles of bourbon and whiskey. Number one, I'm very selective about when I drink. I never drink during a prep, whether that be marathon, half marathon, 5K, any kind of competition prep. I do not drink. And last year in 2024, I actually didn't drink for 8 months. Just based off what had happened in my life, I didn't think it was a very good idea at the time. So I did that. And right now I'm just kind of not feeling like drinking. But even after my marathon prep, I'm not feeling like it for some reason. And I love collecting bourbon and whiskey. It's such a big habit of mine, or not a habit, but a hobby of mine. And I really enjoy it. I love the community that's out there for it. I love going on bourbon and whiskey hunts to different stores and just picking up different bottles and tasting different bottles. My uncle is really big into it as well. He's what got me started. And I love going up to Minnesota, meeting with him and trying some of his collection and just, having conversations back and forth about it. And I think that if you can drink and have a hobby like that and you can just have it and not abuse it, I think that it's okay. I think it's okay to enjoy life every now and then. I think if you're working your butt off and you're, for example, if I'm competing in a marathon this year, if I have other big goals that I want to hit this year and, I have some alcohol a little bit throughout the year, I think that that's okay. Just know that there is consequences with it. Obviously, it is a poison. It does kill our brains, kill our bodies, and it will kill your progress when it comes to fitness. That's why I'm starting to get more aware about how selective I actually need to be with it, because I do know that this will be something that I'll always do. I want to be an older gentleman with a whiskey and a cigar, and I want to be fit. on my porch, just relaxing. So that's what I would like to do. But I wanted to throw that one in there because I don't want people to think that I'm like this guy that preaches all this stuff, or not preaches, but talks about all this stuff. And I'm super strict about it. There's a time and place for everything. Make sure that you can control it. Make sure that you can be aware of what you're doing and the choices that you're making. And I think you'll be just fine, and you can do whatever you want. And another good thing is that you're eating whole foods, eating animal-based, and really prioritizing nutrition and health. You can have that alcohol. You can have those ice creams and those brownies and that pizza and that pasta every once in a blue moon. Okay, so there's some key takeaways from today's episode that I want you to take with you today. Whole foods and animal-based eating is the key. It really is. It's the key to unlocking a long life. And it's a key to sustaining energy every single day, every single month, every single year. It's the key to building up your fitness and becoming the best version of yourself mentally and physically. Number 2, red meat is healthy for you. Don't avoid red meat. Make sure that you're getting it into your diet as much as you can. It's great for you. A lot of vitamins, a lot of nutrients in red meat. Number 3, this is a big one, probably the biggest one. Do not fall for false advertising from companies. We hit on this quite a bit. Do not fall for the natural flavors. Do not fall for the multigrain or enriched wheat flour, energy bars, protein bars, electrolytes, and Gatorade. Don't fall for that. Do some research on electrolytes. Electrolytes are so important for you. Do not drink Gatorade. Do not drink these electrolyte drinks that companies are just pumping out. Go do some research on some really healthy electrolyte supplements. Get it, put it in some good reverse osmosis water, and drink that. You're going to feel 100 times better. You're going to be way more hydrated, and you're going to see and reap a lot more benefits from drinking those electrolytes instead of all that added processed sugar that is in Gatorade. So don't believe in those marketing myths and that false advertising. They just want your money. They don't care about your health. Number 4, prioritize protein at all costs. 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's the rule. Do it. You're going to feel a lot better. You're going to lose a lot of body fat and probably gain some muscle if you're doing some kind of fitness. That is it for today's episode of the Tickets Towards Success podcast. If this resonated with you, I would really like to hear your feedback on this episode. Are you guys enjoying the episodes that I'm putting out? Please just leave a comment. Let me know if this is good or bad. Let me know some things that I can work on. Let me know what you don't like. That way I can fix it. That way I can be better for the audience. I will say that we did upgrade the audio this past week. We got our XLR cable in the mic. I hope that it sounds a lot better. I'll have to see when I go back and review this. We got a audio interface. We got the Rodecaster Duo sitting over here. Got it for a steal on Facebook Marketplace, so I had to pick it up. It was something that I wanted to do in the future, especially if I want to have in-person guests on the show someday. I knew I was going to have to get it, so might as well get it at a discounted price. Anyways, like I said, love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And if you're up for it, if you could share this with someone that may enjoy this content, like I said, health, fitness, finance, and the mindset needed to thrive, please feel free to share that with them and bring them over to the community, to the podcast. Be sure to follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I have Tickets Towards Success accounts on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Go give them a follow. I also post health and fitness content on my personal page at Real Tucker N on TikTok and Instagram. Be sure to follow me there for some bonus content. Don't forget, I post new episodes every single Monday. Next Monday, we're going to actually talk about some finance. We're going to switch it over to that for that episode. And we're going to talk about the power of credit cards, how to use them wisely, and how to not go into debt while using them. So turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode, and download my podcast if you're feeling up to it and you just want to have those continuous updates. Please remember, please remember that all of us have limited time. So work hard, be healthy, and keep collecting tickets so you can find your purpose and you can be your best self. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode.